Welcome, my friends, to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today for a fun conversation with a passionate author. We're kicking off the program, like it's our tradition, with a short reading from the feature book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started.
My name is William Douglas, and I'm the author of the new second edition of the Gospel of Science. I'm just going to read a paragraph of this, and then we can talk more. The following scientific data proves that when our consciousness lets go of individuality and attunes to connectivity, we can experience ourselves as waves of humanity and waves of the universe, which is what science proves we in fact are, a vibration connected to everything. There is an art of consciousness which science is proving can help us behold larger, simpler, yet paradoxically more elegantly complex truths beyond our current thinking. Although this is a book of pure science, it is about the art and science of our consciousness, and it is world-altering.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm your host, DC, and I'm ecstatic you guys are joining us today. We're going to be talking about a topic that is very dear to my heart. And today I have the amazing Mr. Williams. Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. It's so good to see you.
It is such a pleasure to have you. You're talking about topics that I absolutely love and practice, so I want to just jump in. You said second edition of this book. When did the first edition come out?
A little over 2 years ago.
So what made you decide to have a second edition?
Well, the science on consciousness and mind-body practices and what that offers for the world is just mounting so rapidly. But another thing that happened was my very first book helped launch a global event called World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. It's now in 80 countries. We started it here in Kansas City about 22 years ago. It's all over the planet. Right before I published the book, we just got data from the Princeton University Born Global Consciousness Project. They shared data with us that showed that this event actually changed global consciousness. It had actually measurably increased the coherence of not just the people participating in the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event, but in the entire global consciousness of the planet. So I was able to get that data right before the book went to publication, and I was able to get it in there.
That is absolutely mind-blowing, especially because when we talk about consciousness, we talk about having a tipping point, having meditations and meditators affecting the consciousness of the world, but we always think as an individual. Most people are not really thinking how it impacts those around them. So you have science to say, oh, this happens.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the book. What is it about?
It's about so many things, but it all comes to one elegant conclusion. And that is we could be saving trillions of dollars by getting as many people around the planet to practice mind-body practices as possible. It would cut our annual healthcare spending by trillions of dollars worldwide. And it would also reduce social costs. So police, prisons, military, ultimately war. Because one of the things that happens when we practice these mind-body practices, when we go into these meditative states on a regular basis, it actually physically increases the size of the empathy and compassion parts of the brain. And it physically shrinks the stress and fear part of the brain. And so in the beginning of the book, I point out that there was a massive study that was done, and they found out it was over a period of decades. And what they found out was that perhaps the biggest indicator of people's future health and well-being was whether they had a hopeful, positive vision of their future. Coming out of the pandemic and all the turmoil and everything, a lot of folks are having kind of a negative view of the future or a very limited view of the future. And what my book does is it shows scientifically that we're headed for some really incredible times. Some really beautiful things are happening around the planet. But like Gil Scott-Heron said, the revolution is not going to be televised. You're not going to see this on mainstream media because much of it is panic driven. I actually get into it's panic and fear driven because that's what stimulates viewers. But amp programming stimulates the consciousness like programs like this. It's really important. I wanted to give people this very hopeful science-based vision of the future because that is what is unfolding in our future. One of the things that's really beautiful that I found out because I was interviewing many physicists that were working on consciousness type of research, I was able to connect with Dr. Roger Nelson, who was a project director at Princeton University and the founder of the Global Consciousness Project that discovered that there is like a global consciousness. And he said that his favorite part of the 20 years of research that they did was that they found that when people come together in what they called healing compassion states of consciousness, that their consciousness affected the planet more powerfully than when people were in fear or panic states.
It is such a powerful message because a lot of the times we're so consumed, like you said, with fear. Fear is what is selling in most of our news outlet, is what's selling in most of our shows. And that's what we're feeding into ourselves every day. So to know that an event as Yoga Meditation Day could actually have an impact worldwide, not only just to you, but the people around you that they're not even doing yoga, is amazing. I love the ripple effect across the world with individuals who are not even aware is taking place.
Right. My book, the new second edition of the Gospel of Science, it's filled with a lot of science that will fundamentally change the way that a lot of your listeners actually see the world, see the future of the world, and also see their own power and potential as human beings. For example, one of the things in the book that I have is I have the data showing that for the last 40 years, the reported violent crime rates in the United States and in many countries around the world has been dropping precipitously for 40 years. We're at near 40-year lows in violent crime rates. Now, when I mention this in my public presentations, people go, well, that can't be true. I just saw the news last night. Crime rates are through the roof. What they've found is that if they get us fearful or angry or panicked, we come back because we get addicted to the stress chemicals. They give you 6-inch headlines that say violent crimes going through the roof. So they keep that urgency and that turmoil in people's consciousness. And it's not really good for the future of the planet. So what I did, I just kind of turned away from all that kind of media. And I spent much more of my time as I was reading the science for this book. It just really drilled into me that this stuff is real, that it really works, that it has huge impacts on our consciousness and our health and everything. And so my own book drove me back to just get away from the panic on the TV news and come back within.
I totally have to agree with you. It's the modern day soap operas, except that it's playing with our emotions. It is a modern day idealistic of you need to believe in this and not that,
Yeah.
instead of understanding that as human beings, we can have multiple opinions. I
Yes.
can like
Yes.
oranges and apples just the same and not have to pick a camp.
You can agree with one person on oranges, and then you may disagree with that person on pears. But no, it's like the division lines are just getting so intense. And then the other thing too is it just puts us in a consciousness box. It limits our vision to the whoever designs the programs on the news. When you go within and you go into the meditative states, when the brainwaves go into that alpha theta brainwave state, that's when your consciousness just opens to just huge possibility. All the great thinkers of time from Aboriginal cultures through Aristotle, Plato, Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, all the great spiritual leaders, they knew that when you went into that state of stillness, that's when you really tapped into the big picture, big field. And also that's when we realized that we're connected to everything. That's really, really exciting for the future. And what came out of the book was the inspiration for the Global Transformation Project. And what we're advocating, you can go to globaltransformationproject.org and learn all about it and also sign our petition. Because what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to United Nations missions worldwide. And the resolution advocates for mind body education to become a core part of public education worldwide. So public education students worldwide will be exposed to yoga, tai chi, meditation, qigong, and mindfulness because they're all science proven. But what I get into in the book is some of the science that shows that it would be crazy not to do this because the science shows mind body practices increase IQ. They improve our GRE reading scores, our math proficiency skills, our verbal fluency skills. They reduce bullying, they reduce illness, they increase focus, they increase test scores. There's no teacher on the planet that would look at that and go, no, we don't want any of those higher IQs in our school. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get the UN to advocate this for public education worldwide.
This is such a powerful tool and so simple. We spend so much money on standardized testing and what can we do and how do we do these things? But something as simple as meditation, something as simple as yoga. Let's be honest.
Right. And the other thing too is that like Tai Chi and Qigong, they all provide aerobic benefit. They give you all the
Mhm.
benefits that a physical education class would do. but they're also giving you like a larger brain and a higher IQ and a much, much stronger immune system. The science on this stuff is compared to just standard exercise.
It's a win-win for everybody. Let's be honest. We all need to be healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And when you can do it in a setting and teach it young, because some of us are picking it up in our 30s and 40s, where we have a whole entire lifetime that we have been struggling with stress. We have been struggling with fears that we could have learned how to literally let it go so much easier if those things were taught to us at an earlier age.
That's right. And kids resonate to this stuff. The thing that inspired this for me personally to do was that I've been teaching in public education. It's not part of public education. They bring me in as guest speaker. But at any age, I've worked with kids of all different ages and also including learning challenge. I had a class through a university they were mostly adult people, but they were 7-year-old developmental skills. Any age level or whatever, you can teach it in an appropriate way. This is such a natural thing for the kids. My 4-year-old granddaughter, I told her one day, I said, Angelica, I'm going to teach you how to meditate. And she goes, oh, I already know how to meditate. She sat down on the sofa and crossed her legs and put her hands on her knees and closed her eyes and took a big breath. And she goes, peace begins with me.
Oh my God.
4 years old, because they taught them that in preschool. It would replace the old PE course, offer so many more benefits. But by the time they went through 12 years of this, they would be kind of the equivalent of these Tibetan monks that are able to just go into gamma brainwave consciousness. They would be kind of a superhuman.
Here's the fun part about it is kids don't have with the baggage that we do and all the misconception about alternative medicine and alternative life cycles that we tend to pick up as adults. So when you tell a child we're going to meditate, they don't have nothing to compare it to. They're like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, I really encourage everybody listening, get the new second edition of the Gospel of Science, because I have all this science meticulously endnoted. And then I have a web page that has live links to all the places where I got science so that you can be up to date on all this stuff. Then when somebody goes at alternative medicine or that or this or all that stuff that based on science, you can say, well, actually, if you look here, the NIH has done studies or the British Medical Association has done studies, and this is what they found. This stuff actually does this. It makes your brain bigger. It makes you smarter. It makes you have like 50% more helper T cells to consume virus bacteria than you would have if you didn't practice this stuff. So it's all measurable.
Most people honestly consider it to be still very far out. What do you mean you're doing this? What is this all about energy?
Yeah, the media, they kind of make it seem stupid. You're not going to get your science off Wikipedia.
It is such an interesting kind of dynamics of what we hear, what we have access to, and what really is good for us. And sometimes the two things are not hand in hand. And you're going, you want health and you want well being, but yet we don't make this easily accessible. So it is that paradigm that we're shifting to. What else can people find in the book?
It'll just give you this positive, hopeful vision. Like you said earlier, it's simple, it's elegant, it's cost effective. We could be doing this very quickly and it would be transforming the planet. The prisons that have incorporated mind body practices, they have seen dramatic drops in violence. So if it can do that for a prison, it can do it for cities and it can do it for the whole world.
It's such a powerful message and it's simple, my friends. You don't have to go buy equipment. You can meditate on your couch. You don't have to have special anything. It doesn't need a monthly subscription to nothing. You can just do it yourself. And now you have science to give you the reasons behind, which I absolutely love.
I've been meditating for decades. And during the pandemic and the lockdown, they just started watching the news all the time. And I wasn't meditating, I wasn't practicing what I preached, I was only doing it when I went to classes. And I got all stressed out. I turned into a big stress ball when I decided to work on the second edition of this book. And I was rereading all the science on what it does to my brain, what it does to my nervous system, what it does to my circulatory system, what it does to my DNA. I made sure that I made time to meditate that day.
I love it. It is a way of finding a place and time for yourself, making yourself a priority and doing something good for yourself and knowing that it's validated.
Also, when we go into these states, it gives us this larger image of ourselves and possibility in the world. It's just a really important thing to remember that we're here to enjoy these lives because the world can get real mechanistic and we kind of get this feeling like we're only here to be productive widgets in a machine. If we're not productive, then we don't really have any value. Well, when you practice these things, you start to realize the value of life is just being here, present in this moment with these incredible human beings that we encounter in our lives. And it's beautiful. we can love our future into becoming a beautiful future. I do in my book, I do get into social activism and protest and things like this because life is life. It is what it is. What the science shows is peaceful, compassionate protest is much more effective than angry finger pointing protest. And also we attract people, we attract the public. So if you're fighting for a good cause, then the public's going to agree with it because the general public is quite compassionate as opposed to what you would think from watching the news.
I am so for this and so happy I could talk to you all day. Before you leave us, tell us, where can our listeners find you? Where can they find the book?
Just search for new second edition, The Gospel of Science. And your local independent bookstore may have it. I'm sure they'll order it if they don't have it. And ask the library as well. We want as many people reading it as possible. And smarttaichi.com is my personal Tai Chi website. But I'm also an award-winning novelist, written a couple of novels. They're about consciousness. They're technological thrillers. They'll keep you on the edge of your seat. So smarttaichi.com, they can find out about all my books there.
So exciting, so much fun. And this has been so motivating. I am so glad you came. Before you
Yeah.
leave us, are you ready for the lightning round? Because you can't leave without it.
Oh, the lightning round. Yes. Can't wait.
Easy peasy. Don't think too much about it. Let's see how you do. Spicy food or sweets?
Spicy.
Okay. Beach or lake?
Beach.
Scary movies or comedies?
Comedies.
Okay. That's an easy one. Country music or classic rock?
Oh, I have to go classic rock. I'm sorry.
It's all good. This is a little different. Let's see how you do. What food best describes your personality?
mm. Well, gee, I guess I'd say Chinese food.
I'll give you that one. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Mr. William, it is a pleasure and an honor. And thank you so much for this book and what you put it out to the universe and what you put it out to our communities. We truly, truly appreciate it. Do you have any closing remarks for us?
Yes, we're all changing the planet. Our goodwill and our love and our hope is scientifically proven to make the change that we're making more powerful. I know we're all going through a lot of things. I go through it as well, but I know that I need to go within to find that safe spot. And everybody has it. Everybody has it. In the back of my book, I have introductions to a lot of different meditative techniques. So you have techniques that you can get started with in the book. But I also encourage people to get involved in local classes, make connections with each other on this other level so that we can create this whole other kind of parallel society that will expand and shine so much brighter than the limited vision of society and the future that we're being given. It's really important to do this.
Thank you so much. I love it. To our listeners, check out the book, check out the website. Make sure you're spending some time with yourself and getting there. So thank you so much for joining us again. Make sure you give us a like, share the podcast with everybody. Also, huge thank to our Patreon community. If you guys want to join, make sure you know the link is on the comments. So go ahead and click. And I'll see you again next week for another amazing author. Bye, everyone.